welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely pumped to have you here today because we are diving headfirst into a totally mind-bending thought experiment. Seriously, it's one of those ideas that completely flips our understanding of power, control, and, honestly, human nature itself. We're going to explore a scenario that sounds exactly like pure science fiction, but as you'll see, it very quickly turns into a profound psychological mirror. So settle in, get comfortable, because we're going on a wild, immersive journey today, and the main character in this scenario, it's you.
So, picture this. You're just sitting in your room, casually scrolling through your phone like you do every single day. Out of nowhere, this strange, incredibly simple app just pops up on your screen. It has one button and exactly one word on it: pause. You kind of hesitate, maybe even laugh out loud at how ridiculous it looks. And then, well, out of sheer curiosity, you tap it. Instantly, the hum of your refrigerator completely cuts out. The fan blades above you just freeze in place. The entire world literally stops. It's not slowed down, it's not buffering, it is stopped completely.
Okay, let's kick things off with part 1, the day the world stopped.
The exact second you realize the app actually works, everything changes. The sheer shock of it hits you like a physical force. You look down and your phone is no longer just a device. It's literally the key to holding the universe by the neck. You step outside, and it's like you've walked into a museum built out of reality itself. You look up, and there's a flying bird frozen completely midair. You see rain hanging in the sky like little shards of glass. The highway traffic locked into silent metal sculptures. Even the dust in the air is just hanging there like tiny pieces of frozen light. People are turned into statues, with unfinished words and expressions of joy or annoyance just caught right there on their lips. Now, you might think your first instinct would be greed, right? Like running to rob a bank or taking whatever you want. But the truth is, stepping into this totally silent, frozen world wouldn't spark greed. No way. It would spark real, visceral fear.
And there's a quote that hits the nail on the head here. In fantasy, power feels exciting. In reality, power feels heavy. When you have that kind of total, impossible access, the first question your brain asks isn't, what can I gain? It's, what am I actually allowed to do? The world is still there. It's totally silent. It's waiting. And then this terrifying realization washes over you. Every single decision in this paused universe is now yours, and yours alone.
Which brings us right into Section 2, the slippery slope of control.
You see, the temptation to misuse a power like this, it wouldn't start with you putting on a cape and becoming some comic book supervillain. No, it starts with convenience. You start at step 1, pausing for just a single second. Maybe you're running late for work, or you're trying to escape an incredibly awkward conversation, so you just hit pause to gather your thoughts. It feels harmless, right? Maybe even kind of clever. But then you graduate to step 2, pausing for a whole hour. You use it to skip traffic or finish a stressful assignment. And eventually, you reach step 3, pausing indefinitely. And this is where the entire concept of privacy is fundamentally erased. Think about it. Doors, locks, physical distance, they're completely meaningless when time doesn't exist for anyone but you.
Here is the crucial, honestly terrifying reality. Small choices make the next bad choice much, much easier. It's this invisible line you cross inside your own mind. You suddenly realize that absolutely nobody can ever catch you. There are no cameras working, no witnesses, zero immediate consequences. And in that perfectly safe silence, the most dangerous, unchecked version of yourself begins to slowly wake up.
All right, Section 3, hero, villain, or both.
Once you figure out that you can perfectly edit any situation, a massive dichotomy of choice opens up for you. On one hand, you could be the silent hero. You see a car about to crash, you hit pause, and you just easily move a pedestrian out of the way. You fix a catastrophic mistake before it even happens. I mean, that would give you this deeply addictive feeling of being a chosen savior. But on the flip side, you could take the darker path. What happens when someone embarrasses you and you pause time just to ruin their day without them ever knowing? What if you start reading private messages, checking test answers, or, secretly moving money around? The real danger isn't that you instantly become evil. The danger is how ridiculously easy it becomes to cross lines you once thought were set in stone.
And that brings us to a really vital definition of human nature. People don't just wake up as absolute saints or absolute monsters. We drift. We justify things to ourselves. We test boundaries by saying, hey, I'll only do it just this once. Handing someone the ultimate power of a time pause app wouldn't magically remove their human nature. Actually, it would ruthlessly, totally expose it for what it is.
Moving on to Section 4, the price of absolute power.
So, we've talked a lot about the temptation, but what about the suffocating, hidden costs of living inside a reality that you can constantly manipulate? The sheer logistics alone are enough to drive you crazy. When you hit pause, does your physical body keep aging? Are you still getting hungry or feeling tired? And most terrifyingly, does the phone battery still drain? Because let me tell you, if there is a battery limit, this power isn't some peaceful playground anymore. It becomes an urgent, terrifying, ticking clock where every single pause second is a frantic race against the battery icon.
And even if you did have unlimited time and battery, consider this quote. Time pause is not just a gift. It is isolation disguised as freedom. Imagine walking through a major city at midnight. You hit pause. The streetlights are glowing, people are frozen mid-step, trapped in their own private dreams. At first, sure, it's a huge thrill. But soon, the eerie, heavy loneliness of being the only conscious being in a totally silent universe would become absolutely crushing. And then you start noticing the hidden glitches. Maybe a clock suddenly loses a minute when you finally unpause. A phone call just gets erased from history. A memory gets hazy, or small objects completely vanish. You realize pretty quickly that this power, it isn't free. Continuously stepping outside of the flow of time begins to distort your own emotions. Your empathy actually starts to fade because you're completely detached from continuity. Ordinary, slow-moving reality starts to feel almost insulting. Waiting in a regular line feels unbearable. You start viewing normal people as if they're just moving in slow motion, basically isolating yourself completely from the rest of humanity.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the ultimate moral test.
This brings us right to the climax of our whole thought experiment, those defining choices that determine if you can actually remain human while holding on to impossible control. Because the ultimate temptation wouldn't be money or fame, not at all. It's the urge to go back and fix your own life. You would want to erase your past mistakes, unsay the wrong words, and just prevent every pain you've ever felt. But the massive warning here is that pain teaches wisdom. Mistakes create growth. If you perfectly edit your life so that you have absolutely no scars and take no risks, your victories become entirely hollow. A life without struggle is a life with far, far less depth.
And so you are left looking at this incredibly stark choice. You could embrace selfish corruption, basically using the tool purely for your own ego, perfecting your comfort until you are totally, hopelessly isolated from humanity. Or you could choose disciplined protection. That's the realization that superpowers don't matter nearly as much as character does. The true test of this app happens when you are forced to choose sacrifice over convenience, like deciding to give up your godlike advantage to naturally protect a loved one, trusting reality itself over a manufactured frozen moment. Which leaves us with one final lingering question for you to ponder. Imagine that phone glowing softly in your hand in the dark. You know exactly what happens if you press it. Do you tap it again, letting the silence return and the universe hold its breath just for you? Or do you put the phone down, take a deep breath, and choose to live within the beautiful, messy, unstoppable, natural flow of time? I really want you to think about that today, because what you choose says absolutely everything about who you are. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I will catch you in the next one.